Conference playoff seedings have been a chaotic game of snakes and ladders this season. Teams have moved up just as quickly as they've moved down. But finally, we have our playoff matchups, and New Orleans is set to take on the Portland Trail Blazers. Everyone knows just how good Damian Lillard is. He's just about as good as it gets when it comes to scoring and shooting. Since the All-Star break, the point guard has put the team on his back, increasing his points per game to 28.3, his offensive rating to 122, and his plus-minus to 10.9 from 3.6. New Orleans is going to have their hands full, but that's not to forget what Portland will be dealing with. Anthony Davis has been just as impressive since DeMarcus Cousins went down with a season-ending injury. The Pelicans are 20-8 since February 10, with Davis upping his output in a number of categories. Others have helped AD, including Etuan Moore, Rajon Rondo, Nikola Mirotic, and most importantly, Drew Holiday. This could easily be one of the best first-round series of the NBA playoffs. I first want to delve into Damian Lillard and just how tough the Pelicans are going to have it. Dame only needs a little bit of room for him to start catching fire. For me, he's just about as good as James Harden at creating any kind of scoring opportunity that he wants. Drew Holiday will usually be the Pelicans' key defender, and as I've touched on in the past, we know just how good he is on that end. Here in this first example, the Blazers have Lillard off the ball in the right-hand corner. Holiday is playing Damian tight, something that you'll see he does throughout their matchup. Nurkic then goes down to set a screen, which Lillard runs off. This is just the setup for the real action. Once Lillard has the ball, he waits for Aminu to set an on-ball screen. Emeka Okafor shows on the pick, but is looking to stop the dribble penetration. It's no matter as Lillard gets a tiny bit of space and pulls up and hits the three. What stands out here is that Holiday is playing pretty good defense and gets hit with a pretty good screen from Aminu. Even though he does his best to fight through it, there's no time to recover and contest the shot. If the Pelicans give Lillard even a fraction of space, he's going to take advantage. At the start of the fourth quarter of this game, Lillard was taking over. Expecting this series, but there will be times that New Orleans simply can't do anything to stop him. So I mentioned that Holiday plays Lillard relatively close and tight. This presents a bit of a problem, which the Blazers love to exploit. Portland will consistently try to set a double high screen, even near the half-court mark. Here, Holiday is right up on Lillard, and he decides to go under the screen. But the Blazers are coming with two screens, because even if Drew navigates the first screen, the second one is going to get him. Holiday gets caught, and Lillard immediately attacks Diallo, who cannot keep pace with him, and the layup is good. This here is another time that Holiday gets caught up high. Diallo here does a good job of at least containing Lillard, but he can't do much against a fadeaway jumper. You may be thinking, why is Drew playing Lillard so far up the court? Why not just go under the screens? Well, it's because if he were to go under the screen, then Damian would have a very nice look from three, which he would easily make, and does on a regular basis. Even when Holiday does a good job of navigating the screen, Damian can just be better, pure and simple. The best you can do is try to keep him in front of you and contest his shot, which Holiday will no doubt do this playoff series. But just as dangerous as Damian Lillard is, Anthony Davis will be the same to Portland. The primary defenders that Davis will be facing will be Al-Farouq Aminu and Jusuf Nurkic. In the previous two games, Aminu and Nurkic accounted for nearly 80% of all defensive matchups against Davis. Aminu, for the most part, does a decent job of trying to contain Davis. Here, the Pelicans get Davis down low on the block for an isolation, which they often run. Davis backs him down a couple of times before fading away for a tough contested mid-range jumper. This is the kind of look that Portland wants the Pelicans to take. On to the next clip, and Davis looks to screen for Ian Clark. Aminu has to pause and respect Clark, who does a real excellent job of cutting with purpose and energy. It sucks in his attention, giving Davis the fraction of space he needs to gather the ball, drive to the baseline, and hit a contested floater. Something that we're going to see often these playoffs is the Rondo-Davis connection. Since Cousins went down, the Pelicans are initiating most of their offense through Rondo and Holiday. Here again, New Orleans is looking to attack Aminu. Davis comes out and tries to set a screen on Lillard. Rondo then drives towards the baseline as Aminu has contained. But once Rondo sees that Aminu calls for a switch, he knows that he has Davis open. He then makes the pass, AD fakes, drives for an easy look at the basket, which he unfortunately misses. The connection between Rondo and Davis has been developing all throughout the season. Outside of the pick and roll or fade, Be sure to look for various lobs and double screen actions which try to get Rondo driving and Davis being freed up for an alley-oop look. One of my favourite sets that New Orleans likes to run is the pin down screen for E'Twaun Moore. Moore has been having one of his best seasons and has contributed quite a bit of scoring since Cousins went out. Here, Davis moves down to set what appears to be a pin down screen for Moore. This is usually to get E'Twaun a look on his way to the basket. Again, it's put Aminu in a bind. He either has to help out his teammate and prevent the floater, or he stays with Davis and Moore has an easy path to the basket. He chooses the former and E'Twaun lobs it up for Davis for the slam. So we've talked a little bit about the superstars. It's my belief that Davis and Lillard are going to be great no matter what in this series, but before we conclude things, I want to touch on some of the other key factors going into this series. CJ McCollum is the Blazers' second best player. New Orleans will likely be throwing some combination of E'Twaun Moore, Darius Miller, Ian Clark at him. This is the mismatch that Portland will look to exploit. McCollum isn't quite at the level of Lillard with regards to scoring, but he's just as crafty at getting the Blazers' offense to function at an extremely high level. In this example, as in many others, Portland tries to free up CJ with an on-ball pick and roll. Nurkic sets a beautiful screen, and CJ navigates it perfectly. As he drives, he knows he has Cousins and Davis in a bind. CJ's heading downhill, and the Pelicans do not want to give an easy look at the basket. McCollum attacks and kicks to a wide-open Al-Farouq Aminu, who misses the three. These are the kinds of looks that are devastating for the Pelicans. They have to respect CJ, but they're also conscious of not losing Lillard, as we've seen in a number of examples before. So we've seen countless clips of the Blazers setting high screens on Pelicans guards. What we've noted from these clips is that these screens do a very good job of freeing up Lillard. However, what they also do is if the defense overextends, as it frees up use of Nurkic for easy looks at the basket. Here in this example, Nurkic is setting a screen up high on E'Twaun Moore. He then receives the ball at the top of the three and moves towards Lillard for a dribble handoff and screen. Holiday is caught behind the play, but is quickly recovering. Okafor is doing his best but cannot contain both the ball and the rolling Nurkic. Because of his superior athleticism, Youssef is able to corral the ball and score a nice look close to the basket. I would expect that early on in games, Okafor is going to receive some decent amount of minutes because New Orleans doesn't want Davis on the bigger Nurkic for too long. Portland should try to exploit that as much as they possibly can. Finally, I want to touch on two things from the Pelicans' offensive perspective. Before I highlight these examples, I want to just make mention of the style of play that New Orleans has instituted since Cousins has gone down. The Pelicans' pace is now the fastest in the NBA. Their MO is to pass and move the ball as much as possible as they try to average over 30 assists a game. This quote from Alvin Gentry delves into a little bit what the transformation has been like. They created matchup problems for a lot of teams, so when Cousins went out, and all of a sudden we had to change how we played together, Gentry said. What we've been able to do is create space, and we like to play that way simply because it puts AD in a situation where he's in space and the double teams can't come as quick. It also gives us an opportunity to space the floor for shooters, to drive it and kick it to shooters. We've become much more of a stretch team again. This example here alludes a little bit to what Gentry is meaning. The Pelicans have just stolen the ball, Davis is running in space and at one point has a look on his way to the basket. Holiday decides not to take the risky pass and instead moves it to E'Twaun Moore on the wing. Moore knows that he has to get the ball quickly into the post because, as Gentry has mentioned before, it puts AD in a situation where he's in space and the double team can't come as quick. E'Twaun clears out and Davis has a one-on-one with Nurkic. Here Youssef doesn't want AD to blow by him quickly, so he leaves a little bit of room, but AD immediately rises up and hits the jumper. Portland also needs to be aware of one of my favourite plays that New Orleans likes to run. Usually off of either a made free throw or a made basket, the Pelicans will push the ball to one side or the other. Here in this clip, Drew Holiday gets the ball and moves it immediately up the court. Ian Clark then moves up from the corner and sets a screen on Holiday's man. Clark, instead of holding the screen, then cuts and slips towards the basket as the Blazer who is guarding him stands there thinking that it was an easy switch coming. Holiday makes a lovely pass down to Clark who then hits the layup. New Orleans loves to run this with a variety of guard combinations. Either it's Rondo and Holiday, Holiday and Moore, Rondo and Clark, and so on. It's one of my favourite plays that New Orleans runs because it's so immediate and gets them easy points after the opponent just scored. Portland needs to recognise this play and the defender who is guarding the screener must stay with his man the whole way. So there's plenty more that I could break down from these two teams. Niko Mirotic has been on fire since he shaved his beard. Shabazz Napier I would also expect to be a solid contributor for the Blazers against poorer Pelican guards. Regardless though, this series for me is going to be the best of all the first round matchups. Both teams have true superstars, and for my money, whichever supporting cast steps up will be the winner. If I had to put a prediction on it, I'd say it'd be Portland in 6 or 7. I think the Blazers' home court will be a huge factor, as well as Terry Stotts' defensive scheme, which forces opponents to take long contested 2-point shots. Well, that just about does it. Stay tuned for more of these film studies for the Pelicans and the Blazers. I'll try and do one for each of the games that are played throughout the series. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks again, and until next time.